today I'm going to take a session on a new testing tool which helps to test an Angular applications. Right? So the name of the tool is Protractor. So it's basically developed or designed for Angular apps. So if you want to, we have so many automation tools we are having, but for testing Angular applications, the Selenium is not that much recommendable because we can't able to identify the Angular elements by using their IDs or names, something like that, what we are commonly used for Selenium. So in case of Protractor, it's provide us most specific features, like we can able to identify the Angular elements specifically by using their representation of ng modal, ng click, something like that. So that's why I prefer Protractor for testing an Angular application, right? So let's start. So today what are the things we are going to discuss means, first one is what is Protractor, and the second thing why Protractor is more preferable in compared to other tools, and third one is the advantage of Protractor, and fourth one is how it working. So what's the basic workflow of Protractor, and the thing I'm going to show you on demo with one sample application and limitations of Protractor. So it's also having some kind of disadvantages. So that's also we are going to discuss, right? Okay. So first, what do you mean by Protractor? So what actually it is? So Protractor is an open source end-to-end testing tool, right? So in my last session we discussed about one unit testing tool. So it's again specific for AngularJs, that is called Karma. So in the similar way, again that Google team developed another one tool specific for Angular. So in order to do an end-to-end testing, so that's our Protractor. And before this Protractor, we used one tool called Angular Scenario Runner. So it's again specific for Angular applications in order to do an end-to-end testing. So when we face some of the issues with the tool, then the Angular team just replace the tool with this new Protractor tool. So I think the name Protractor, why is given is for normally for what purpose we are using Protractor? The device, Protractor device, to measure the angle, right? So maybe that's the reason why they are giving that name for this tool as Protractor. So we are going to measure or we are going to check that Angular application. So that's why they give the name as Protractor, right? So that's a brief introduction. Okay. So I need to test an Angular application, right? So the very common automation tool we are using for web application, I mean we are using for automated browser is Selenium. So it's a very familiar tool. Most of the QA persons used to automate their browsers. But when I try to explore an Angular application using Selenium, I face a lot of issues in finding their elements. So that's why I just find an option. Is there any alternative way to specifically find out that the elements in an Angular applications in order to automate the process? So that's the way I found out this Protractor. So why the Protractor is needed? What's the specific features in Protractor? So first thing is the Protractor provides us a new kind of locator. So locator is something like that. It is used to identify an element in a web application. So Selenium having much kind of locators like find elements by ID, find element by name, find a link by its links text, and find an element by its CSS location or like XPath. In the same way, Protractor again give you some kind of specific locators, simply called as find element by using the ng modal name, and find element by CSS, and find element by ng repeat, something specific to Angular applications. Then it's a wrapper around Selenium WebDriver. So we are saying the Protractor provides us a specific functionality or specific locators which is more particular to the Angular application, but also the Protractor having the existing feature whatever we are using in Selenium. So that's why we are saying it's a wrapper around Selenium WebDriver. And it's an advantage of Selenium Grid. I don't know how many of you is aware of Selenium Grid. So Selenium Grid is again a part of Selenium which we are using to test an application. If you want to test or if you want to run an application in more than one system, more than one browser. So we are using Selenium Grid for the purpose. So simultaneously or parallelly we can able to run a test in more than one systems. So for that purpose only we are using Grid. So we can able to include that Grid in our Protractor, right? Yeah. So then last one is here the framework we are using to include means in order to write a script here we are using one framework, so that is called Jasmine. Other than Jasmine, we also use Monjo or Cucumber. This kind of framework also we can use it to generate the test scripts. Then, what are the main advantage? So, first thing is it's very easy to install and configure. So, you don't need any series of steps to install, or you don't need any complex things or any prerequisites are needed. Simple, very easy, 2 or 3 steps we can able to install it and configure the setup. And then the second thing is having all the features of Selenium that I already told, and no need to add wait for synchronization. So normally when we are testing on web applications, in order to synchronize the applications timeouts, or in order to synchronize find out the elements, we are using some wait statement in our test while using Selenium. So in case of Protractor, they using a technique called, they just automatically sync with an Angular application based on the promises callback from the Angular apps. So it just inbuiltly or automatically just wait for an Angular response. So whether it's one after completing one particular functionality, then only it's moved to the another script. So that's another advantage of using Protractor. And support all familiar browsers and can able to do parallel testing. So in order to do a browser compatibility test, we can prefer Protractor. So here we can able to run the test simultaneously or run the test in more than one browser. So it support most of the familiar kind of browsers like Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and even we can able to run the script in a headless browsers also. And it's a very readable, easily readable script called Jasmine. So I think anyone can able to easily learn the framework Jasmine because it's very user friendly, but it's very easy to understand the way of scripting. So that's the main advantages of Protractor. Then how the Protractor is working? What's the main how the workflow is going on? So first thing is, in order to create one Protractor test, we need 2 basic files. So first file is a config file. So config file is nothing but where we are defined our configurations of a test. So for example, in which browser I am going to run the test, and for which framework I am going to use, and then what are the default time what I want to prefer. So where my test file is located. So these are the things are located in our config file. And then second thing is the test file. So where we actually defined our test cases in for our application. So these 2 files are main resource or main raw data for in order to make one Protractor test, right? So what we are actually doing, so we just run that config file. So we are already having the test script location in our config file. So we directly run the config file. It's just what will happen is it just call the test script and then execute the test script in our specific browser what we have mentioned, right? And how the test is executed? We are execute that config file through the Protractor tool. So we just say Protractor, here is my config file, just run the config. So at the time Protractor what will do? So Protractor send the commands and send that what are the test cases commands I am mentioning in my test cases. So just pass these commands to my Selenium WebDriver. Here the role of Selenium WebDriver, Selenium server is simply like that proxy. So it just we just pass our commands. We just pass our browser APIs, something like open the browser and go back or refresh the browser. These kind of browser related functions or browser related APIs we can able to pass it to an application through this Selenium server only. So I'm using Selenium server as a proxy. So we having another one option like without using Selenium server also we can able to run the test in Protractor. So Protractor can able to execute the browser drivers, can able to directly connect with the browser drivers like Chrome driver and Firefox driver. But other than Chrome and Firefox, if you want to use like Internet Explorer, Safari, you surely go through with Selenium server only. So we don't have another option.
it's only support, the direct connection is only support for Chrome and Firefox browser testing, right? So that's a basic workflow Protractor. So here I mentioned what are the use of each thing. So Jasmine, we are going to use it for define our test, and then Protractor, which helps to run the test, and then Selenium server, which helps to manage our browser, and also the WebDriver, which helps to invoke the browser APIs. Right? So Protractor again able to browse without Selenium also, but it's only for the case of Chrome and Firefox. So how you have to install the Protractor? What's the steps you have to follow? It's a very simple step. So if you are having already, since it's a node package, so if you already install a node in your system, you just follow 2 steps. First thing is install the Protractor by using the command npm install Protractor. So it's automatically installed Protractor in our npm package, and then you have to update your WebDriver. So WebDriver is again inbuiltly installed with Protractor. So you just want to update the WebDriver. So in order to get an updated view. So for that I am using WebDriver -manager/update. So that's the only step you need to follow in order to install the Protractor. Then how to run the test. So as I already told, in order to run a test we need 2 files. One is the config file and another one is the test file. So config file is something like that. Meaning I am going to pass some parameters or I am going to pass some setting data to the Protractor. So that's I defined in my config file. And the spec file. So spec file is nothing but our test file. So here I define my test cases. And the spec file can have a single test case, means spec file can have multiple number of test cases as on test suite, right? Right. So this is one sample config file. So what are the parameters? Lot of parameters we are using within our config files. So these are the basic, very basic parameters we are going to use. The first thing is I am going to mention the Selenium server address. So through which proxy or through which route I am going to use the Selenium. Okay, I mean I am going to run that application. So that's a proxy address you need to mention. So that's the Selenium address. So while run the Selenium server itself, you can able to see the location of Selenium server through means where you can be access the server. So just copy that and then paste it here. Then the second one is the capability. So capability is nothing but the browsers in which you need to run the test. So you have to specify that in a browser name. So here you can use multiple browsers also. So in that case, you have to use another one parameter instead of capability, like multi-capability. So you have to mention multi-capability and you have to mention the list of browsers in an array. So by the way, we can able to access more than one browsers also. And the third parameter is the spec. So where or which test file you need to execute. So that's you need to mention in your spec. So if you are having the config file and the test file in the same location, means you directly give the spec file name. Or otherwise, if you are having different location, you have to mention the corresponding absolute path of the spec file. And then last one is the Jasmine node. So it's simple, like while showing the test result. So I just want to view the exact parser fail statement in different colors. So I just for that I am going to use this parameter. So including this, we have a lot of parameters like default timeout period and means what are the framework I am going to use. So that we can be able to add it here. So that's a basic config file. And here I am showing one basic test case. So this is a framework called Jasmine. So in the Jasmine, it's very easy to write one test cases. So the basic structure of Jasmine framework here I am showing. So each and every spec file you have one test suite. So test suite is simply nothing but the describe. So describe is called as the test suite. So it starts here and ends here. Okay, and then within one test suite we have some number of test cases. So test cases can be mentioned by using it. So here I mentioned the suite name. Here I mentioned the test case name. So these are the things that are common. And within one test case, I can mention what are the things I need to execute in my test case. I can mention it. And these are very essential part of this. Where the exact text means the test is running. So it's nothing but, for example, here what I am going to do is I just say the Protractor to open the browser and page called Angular home page. So in that page, I just find out one text box. So I will pass on value. So when I type something, So it just show me means same text below as a binding element. So I just find that element and then take the text from it and then say this is my expected result. So just compare with the actual value with my expected result. So that's going on. So here the expected value will be given in a equal path and actual value is passed to an expected. Okay. So so don't confuse with that the name expect. This function you have to pass your actual result and 2 equal. So 2 equal is nothing but it's just one matcher. So means including the 2 equal you can use so many number of matches Jasmine framework provided like 2 defined, 2 faulty, 2 truth. So these kind of things you can use it for our expected result. Okay. So this one sample this case. Right. So how can you run the test? So what's the command I need to use to run the test? Simple thing again. So first, if you are using Selenium server as your proxy means, first of all you have to run your WebDriver. So in order to start the WebDriver, you have to use WebDriver, the WebDriver manager start. And then second thing, you have to run the config file, which I already mentioned. So Protractor, where the config file is located, just explore to that particular location and say Protractor your config file. So once it is entered, so automatically test gets run and the results will be shown. Right? So if you are not using Selenium as your proxy means you no need to start the WebDriver. So you can directly start your test by using the Protractor and the config file. Okay, so let's go for a demo.
So before I'm going to show the sample application which I created for this demo, I just want to show the same script which I showed in my slides. So that's the config file. As I mentioned here, the Selenium address is here, and then the browser name. So this is my test file name, and then that parameter is for finding the node options. And then my test case file is here. So as I mentioned, this is my test suite, starts and ends here, and then this is my test case. So in between, I mentioned my test, and then finally the expected statements. Right. So let's run the test. So open the command prompt. So here I'm using Selenium server as my proxy for this example. So that's why before going to start run the test, I need to start the WebDriver. WebDriver manager start. So once the WebDriver gets started, next you have to run your Protractor. Yeah, it's running. So now let's move to our folder. And run the test Protractor space the config file name. So what happened means it connect to the Selenium server. So using the Selenium server, what I mentioned, so it connect the Selenium server and pass all the commands whatever I mentioned in my test and execute in a browser. So the browser gets started. So open the Angular page, finding the element, find the element, just enter the text and get back to this. So the test get executed successfully. Just my expected result matches the actual result. So in case the expected result is not matched with my actual result, then what happens? How it shows the errors. So for example, if I say the expected text should be like this, I by. So now what happens? So run the test. So again finding the element and enter the dimension, comparing the result shows the expected value and the actual values are getting mismatched, so that it gets fixed. Right. So this is a basic example that is shown in the slide. So let's go for another one example. So here is one sample application, Angular application they created for this demo, and here I have used the basic functions like adding employee details and view the employee and edit employee and delete it. Right? So here for this application I created one config file. So now in this now I am going to use Protractor directly to access the browser without using Selenium. So if you want to do like that, so instead of mentioning Selenium address, you directly give Selenium, direct connect be equal to true. You set like that, then Protractor will not consider about the Selenium server. Right? So directly connect with the browser and corresponding browser drivers. So here is my test case name, and I mentioned the timeout period as 60 seconds. So if you need it, you can change it as you want. And then, so this is my test file. So here what I am doing is simply the first thing I am going to check the application title. So whether my application title page title is okay or not. And then second thing is I am going to add one employee detail and then check whether the data is added properly in my table or not. And then third one is I just check with the deletion process. After deleting the data, whether the data is removed from the table or not. So these three things I am going to test here. So here I am using some of specific locators which is specifically used for Angular application. Okay, so let me show you one by one. So here in our sample script we just simply see test suite and test case and then expect the result. Here I'm using one additional thing like before each. So what's about this before each?
So before each is nothing but, so if you want to do some of the repeated process, if you want to execute something before starting each test cases, like if in your test suite you are having multiple number of test cases. So if you want to execute something before each time a test case get executed, means you can put it in your before each block. Okay, so here what I'm given in my before each means I just want to refresh my browser before going to execute each test cases. So that's why I'm going to say open the browser link in my file before each, and then I am saying I am just finding means find out the number of records in my current table. So how I am finding out means, first thing here I am going to identify the table. So how can you identify the table? Normally in our Angular applications we are using a term called repeaters and ng-repeat. So by using ng-repeat only you are populating data to the table. So by using that specific Angular term I am going to find out the element. So for that I am using element dot all by repeater. So the ng-repeat name is staff and staff. So here by using this I am finding the element. So after getting the table, here I am count the number of records in my table. So in order to get the number of records, we can show count up. So after getting, I just stored it in one variable like previous one. Okay. So these are all happening every time before executing each test cases. Right. So after that, I am starting my first test case. It's very simple. I just confirm the application title, and then the second test case is I'm going to add on employee record and then check whether it is properly added in my table or not. So how here I am using one logic for finding confirming the record is added or not. So that is simply I just get the count. So what the count of the records in my table before and after I am adding the data. So that's a logic I am using to check my expected results. Okay. So here what the things I am going to do is, first thing in our applications, the first I am going to click the button, and then after click the button you need to fill that element test data in the field, corresponding field, and then click add, then come to check the table. Okay. So how we are going to do is, first I am finding and find the button by using its ng modal name. So here for this button I am using the name as show add. So by that ng modal name only I am going to find out that element. So you can see this is the ng modal value I'm using for this button, right? So then next thing is here I'm using browser.post. So it's a way of debugging, simple like that. I just want to know what is happening in my application while executing this step, which means the execution process will be very faster. You can't be able to see what is happening in my test application while executing this. So if you want to see that things, you can use this statement like browser.pass. So at the time the browser will be pass that execution. So after you say continue the test script, then only the test will be executed. So if you don't need to see that mean, you can simply comment the line. Okay. Then here after you open that modal, I just pass test data to corresponding each field. So again I am finding each element by using their corresponding ng modal names, and then when you come to here, so in this case gender. So in my application I am using gender here. So here in this element for both of these buttons I am using the same ng modal value. So in that case, how can I able to find out that elements, because both elements having the same name. So I need to find out the element uniquely. So at the case I am using like what first of all I am going to get the collection of elements whatever having the same ng modal. So for that purpose I am using one extra term like all. So element dot all by modal new stuff gender. After getting the collection of elements, so I am specifically going to choose the first element. I mean based on the index I am going to choose the element. So I know for the male I need to select the first element, for female I need to select the second element. So at the case, so I am represent the element simply by using the corresponding index value. So after getting that element, so I just say click that element, and then next thing is select box. So how can you handle the select boxes? So here again, and the select box having one ng modal name. So by this I can able to identify the select box, but how I can able to particularly select one option from the select box. So for that I am using specific character here like dollar. So dollar, and then I am saying value equal to test engineer. So here in this we are mentioning like ng modal. So here we are mentioning each and every options in a attribute called value. So by using that particular attribute I am going to find the exact option. So that's why here value equal to test engineer I am mentioning. And finally after fill out all the details, again I say click the button. So in case of buttons, if you are having ng modal name, you can easily find the element by using this ng modal. Otherwise, if some of the buttons may not having ng modals, so at the case you can use the text which is given in the button itself. So for that purpose I am using button text. So I just find the element by simply by using the text which is given on the button. Right? So after click the button, what I am going to test means, so I just get the expected, actual number of records in my table. So in order to get the records, I just say list dot count up. So we already find out the list variable, initialize the list variable with my particular table, right? So that's why I can get the current record count. So after getting the current count, I'm just saying my expected result is previous count plus 1. So previous count we already calculated before start this test case. So that's the initial count of my table. So after adding the record, what is my count? The count should be added with 1. So this is my expected result. So by this way, I am just confirming whether the particular record is added in my table or not. So similarly, I am going to delete one record. So in order to delete a record, again I need to find the table. After that, in a table we can able to choose the record in two ways. So immediately they provide two functions. One is last and another one is first. So last is used to find out the last record in my table, and first is used to find the first record in my table. So I am using last to because I am adding a record, so those record will be added in my last row of my table. So I am just use last of, and then element called if item. So what the meaning of this is, okay, I am find out the last record. So how can I delete this? So in order to delete this, I need to click this button, delete button. So here I'm not having any button text like that. So how can I able to find this element? So here I'm using glyph icon. So basically it's having some CSS name, right? So just by using that CSS name, I'm just locating the element and then I have to click it, right? So once the button is clicked, automatically the record gets deleted. So once the record is deleted, now I'm going to take the current record count.
So before going to run this test case, the before each block will be executed. So until before it is executed, the current count will be stored in that the previous count variable. So I just compare with the actual result. And after that, I can select in our application. We can also select a record simply by using specific ID. By using ID, I can able to select a specific record. So by this way, I am selecting a record. So how I just select the text box. So I am just enter pass the value. So by which the table gets filtered. So once the table gets filtered, again I am saying last record. So basically that particular record will be selected. So the same logic I am using. So after deleting, now what about the count? The previous count minus 2, because before executing each test case only, what happened? The before each block will be executed. So here now in the previous count, for example 4 means while executing these statements also previous count will be 4. So in case if I give it in a separate test case, at the time I can say what previous count minus 1. Okay. So that's a basic test. So let's see how the test is executed. So in our case, Selenium server is not needed, so I shut down the server. Okay. So let's run the test. So this time it's not communicating with the Selenium server, since I just ask the Protractor to directly connect to the browser. So that's why it directly says connecting to Chrome driver directly.
So what's the difference between accessing an application through Selenium server and directly means the execution speed? So if you are accessing an application through a proxy means automatically the execution speed may be less when compared with directly accessing.
So open that application. So all my test cases get passed, right? So in the same application, the same way, I'm going to implement the data-driven test. So how can you use data-driven test in the same way? Simple thing. If you are having a data in a JSON file, okay, so any data format you can use. So I prefer JSON. So here I am having a collection of test data. So 3 test data I am having. So this is another one test. So here you are given the data as hard coded. So now by using a data driven test, I am going to get the data from the another one file. Okay. So how can you able to do this? First thing is you have to import the data to our test. So in order to import that, you can use require. So require is a function which has to import one data, means a collection of entire data from one file. So after getting the data from a file, what you are going to do? So I just keep it on variable called test data. Then I start my test suite. So here again the same test case one. I am just checking with the browser title, sorry, page title. And now how the how can I able to select each and every set of data from my test data file. Right? So for that purpose I am using for each. So just like a looping process. So it just take each and every record in a particular means object. So it takes the each and every record in my object and then just pass that record to the variable called the data, right? So in this case I'm just selecting, I mean passing the data like data.name because I mentioned name as a variable, email, mobile number, data birth. So just passing each and every corresponding data to the particular corresponding elements. So after that I find out the prompt, right? So let's see how this will be doing. So before that we need to change the config file because now the test case is different. So this test case step 1. Sorry. Yes. So here what I am going to say, the limitations of product. So the main drawback what I feel when I using this product is execution speed. So it's extra speed. So which means while the test is executing, the element visibility is not that much sync with the execution speed of Protractor. So that's why it says I couldn't be able to find the current. Even though the same test is executed for the before two data, for the third set of data it's saying the element is not. So this one this one major limitation I feel like Protractor working with an answer. Okay, so the basic idea is you can able to run the test even with multiple test data for the same set of functionality by using this data-driven test approach. Okay, so we can able to control the speed of the execution speed of Protractor also. So for that we need to pass some more kind of parameters in our config file. By that way we can able to control the Protractor speed. So the same way I just try to implement this in one of our project like OrgLab. So I just in OrgLab I just want to check only the login. In the login field I just want to confirm the validation. So when I give invalid username, how the login button gets enabled or not. So when I give password is not given, how the button should be. So for this I just simply write one test case, a very simple test case. So here what I am saying is, just says when I enter the username like this and password like this, the button should be enabled. And after clearing the username field data, so what is happening? The button should not be enabled. So it should be faulty. And then if I enter username and then password is cleared means what will be happen? Again the button should be disabled. So a simple test. So here I use one approach called page object approach. So what do you mean by page object means like you are getting elements. What are the elements in your page, in your application? Just getting all the elements and put it on each variable in a corresponding variable. And instead of using repeatedly, you simply can use like this. So just use the variables only. So in your previous example, I just used directly the elements like this. Okay. So instead of using like this, you can say if you are going to use the element repeatedly in your test means you can use this page object approach. So simply means having the element in a particular variable, and even though you can save this as one separate file and import the data from that JavaScript here. Okay. Right. So let's check how this test is executing. Right. So if I say, for example, if I say means while clearing, just for a reference, while clearing the password field, the button should be enabled. Till the button should be enabled. If I want to say like that means, otherwise what happens? This particular test case means this particular expected result will be failed. Okay. So yeah. So the test get failed because of a particular test. Okay. So that's all about Protractor. And last finally the limitations. As I told, first thing is what it's basically follows the UI driven approach. So that's why if you make any changes in an UI means maybe we need to update our test case, otherwise the test case gets failed. So that's one limitation. And second thing is there is no any test reporting feature is available in Protractor. So we have a plugins in order to generate the test report as a format of XMLs. So other than that, there is no any option for generating the test report, and it's more faster. So that I will show you if the executing very fastly what will happen. So even though the pass cases get shown as failed, and it's not that much recommended for non-Angular application. Even though we can test Protractor, test a non-Angular application with Protractor, but not much recommendable. Just basically, if you want to use this Protractor to test non-Angular application, means you need to include Selenium's all APIs into your Protractor test. So instead of that, you directly use the Selenium. So that's all about Protractor. So thanks for your presence, and